Florida State has big goals in 2023, and it's easy to see why. The combination of the talent on the roster, along with the talent they bring in from the transfer portal, and Mike Norvell is a recipe for a potential playoff run. Now, how do they get to that next level of the national championship? We'll talk about that today with the 10 players that will potentially make that happen. We'll go to the defense first. This is a defense that has plenty of talent. Well, one player obviously commands most of the attention, but a super underrated player in college football is TATUM, the former UCF transfer, made things work at Florida State and turned into a pretty solid Power 5 player as well. We saw the playmaking ability at UCF. We knew that he can make a ton of plays sideline to sideline, be disruptive in the backfield, and he's doing the same thing at Florida State. He doesn't get a ton of attention because he's on a defense that has a lot of talented players, a roster that has a ton of talented players, but he is someone that deserves more recognition than he gets. Greedy Vance also fits into that category, a cornerback that probably will also fly under the radar because of a player that came in that will be play opposite of him. Greedy Vance is a solid corner who can be an X factor for this team. There will be plenty of talented teams, talented offenses they'll face this year, and throwing the football against Florida State, we'll see how that goes. Greedy Vance has a pretty good name too, so that I think it's a good name for a corner. And if he can be greedy with where he, in terms of his production, then I think you're looking at a Florida State defense that already is super aggressive in what they want to do, but also a talented defense that could take a step forward this year. Lawrence TOAFILI plays a huge role in the rushing attack in this offense. With Treshaun Ward transferring to Kansas State, TOAFILI takes the backup role behind Trey Benson, and what he does to build upon last year could have a big impact on this offense. This is an offense that is loaded with talent. This is an offense that has good skill position talent, and we're really excited to see what that means when you combine that with Mike Norvell's ability to put together explosive offense. When you look at Mike Norvell's Memphis offenses, you see a lot of similarities in some of the players you see here. When you look at what Mike Norvell did in 2018, the rushing attack was one of the most prolific in college football at that time. Darrell Henderson was an absolute monster. You also had Patrick Taylor, and now you have a two-headed monster at Florida State. And what they do to move the football down the field, whether that's through the air or on the ground, they are in good hands with the skill position talent that they have. A player they brought in to help with that through the passing attack is JAHEIM Bell. Didn't have the best year for South Carolina and then ultimately transferred to Florida State, but he is a player that has big time ability. He has NFL talent. He has a bright future if you're looking at the NFL as well. And he has a solid frame at 6'3", 240 pounds. You're looking at a player who could step up and play a big role. Everybody's going to focus on Johnny Wilson, and this is a pass catching group that is really crowded. But if you're finding someone who can step up, JAHEIM Bell has the potential to be a player that fits in that regard, fits that role for Florida State. A player that joined him from South Carolina on the other side of the ball, Gilbert Edmond. And you're looking at what teams are going to focus on Jared Verse. They know what he can do. They know what they should be scared of. That leaves opportunities for guys on the other end, like Edmond, to face one-on-one matchups. And how does he capitalize on those opportunities? Teams are not going to take extra attention away from Verse until proven otherwise. So that leaves opportunities for other guys to step up. And Gilbert Edmond is one of those players. We mentioned the secondary and a cornerback that will command most of the attention. FENTRELL CYPRESS comes from Virginia and inserts himself into a defense that has big goals for 2023. And now you're looking at a passing attack for any team that faces them that might struggle because of the players that Florida State has in the secondary. FENTRELL CYPRESS was good at Virginia. This is a Virginia team that wasn't exactly elite. He found a way to stand out, and he turned that into an opportunity with Florida State, a team that expects big things, expects to win the ACC, and expects to be in the college football playoff at the end of the year. The biggest X factor for this team remains Jordan Travis. You look at what he did last year, I think, a good season for Jordan Travis, and I think that we could expect bigger things from him in 2023. Again, we talk about Mike Norvell and his ability to elevate his players. You look at what he did with Riley Ferguson and Brady White at Memphis. Jordan Travis is the most talented player between those three. So taking him to a new level could be pretty easy with this talent. And after a year with 3,200 yards passing and over 400 yards rushing, I think you could expect big things if this all comes together as everyone expects it to. I think that Jordan Travis could have a really big year, and Florida State's goals of a national championship could be recognized if he's able to take a big step forward. We talked about Johnny Wilson before too, and how could you not at 6'7"? And when you're throwing the football down the field, you don't really have a lot of guys that stand this tall. So having this big target almost gives you that safety blanket. Maybe the one thing that you would like to see him work on is the drops, reducing some of those drops. But when you look at what he did towards the end of the year, this is a guy who is a serious problem for college football. He's an explosive playmaker. He averaged over 20 yards per catch last year. So he's a big time threat downfield. And that's huge for a team that has plenty of options, but maybe needs that go-to receiver. Johnny Wilson has an opportunity to be 1,000-yard receiver and be that go-to guy for Jordan Travis. We talked about Trey Benson before too. He's a player that has the potential to be a great player in college football and turn that into an opportunity in the NFL as well. Hopefully a 1,000-yard runner for Florida State this year. And you look at his speed is super underrated. You look at what he did as a kick returner. He has the ability to be a home run threat. And now he gets an opportunity to build upon a year in which he nearly rushed for 1,000 yards. Jared Verse will come in last. Obviously, he is one of the most talented players in college football. He is a big-time talent with first-round potential, top 10 potential, and his return was a big surprise. We've seen that with a few players in college football, but Jared Verse coming back to Florida State was arguably one of the biggest surprises that we've seen this year. Mike Norvell's defense is very happy to have him back. He's a player that will be a nightmare to block for a lot of tackles, and he is someone who can get his team to play at another level. Florida State, like I said, they have big goals this year. No one is debating what Florida State can do. It's just a matter of how high is that ceiling? What is that goal that they can actually reach? And a national championship is one of those that I think is kind of teetering on a maybe, and people are not really sold, or maybe they just have really lofty expectations. This is a team that has potential to do that, but I think right now they're focusing on first winning the ACC, beating Clemson is really the goal. And then after the first month of the season where they play LSU and Clemson, we're going to know a lot about this team and what they are and what they're not. And if Jordan Travis takes a step forward, this defense can continue to be aggressive and help out this offense by giving them more opportunities to score, then I think you're looking at a team that can realize those goals and can reach those goals in 2023.